IVM.
Hello and welcome to the Habit Coach Podcast, the bite-sized podcast filled with quick and easy, actionable habits. Remember, great habits create that awesome life. I am Ashdin Doctor, your habit coach. And today's fun fact of the day has to do with ballpoint pens. Did you know that the ink in ballpoint pens is an oil-based ink? The dye is about 40% of the ink, and the dye is suspended in a solvent of oil. And as a result, ballpoint pens tend to work differently at different temperatures. A guest on the Habit Coach podcast, Imran Beg, told me something fascinating about this. He said that as graphologists, they can see the quality of the ink change depending on the temperature of the person writing it. If his hands were too warm, the ink will flow out smoother. If his hands are too cold, it will be harder to write. Back in 3000 BC, that is 5000 years ago, we have the earliest recorded use of pens to write. And they were made out of bamboo or pieces of wood. And the Egyptians used these to write on papyrus. The ink was made from soot and beeswax. Now, to truly understand the power of the written word, the Egyptians are the best place to start. The pharaoh had unlimited power over what was written and what was not written. His words became our understanding of history today. Whatever he said was written down and hence lasted over these 5000 years. If he wanted someone to be deleted from the writings, that person disappeared in history forever. No matter how big he was, no matter how important he was. If it wasn't written down, we wouldn't know about him. Writing is a very powerful tool that we are not using to the fullest. Now, we might not be as powerful as the pharaoh and banish someone from the memory of the world. But with writing, we have the ability to convert our thoughts into reality. Our mind is like a bubbling cauldron of ideas and thoughts, each stewing and cooking and moving around. It is very difficult to understand it. And very often, in a flash of brilliance, we get an idea and it is forgotten as quickly as it came. There appear to be very strong links between the hand that writes and the mind. The hand appears to interpret and crystallize the thoughts that we have in our mind. But this only works when we write using paper and pen. The link is lost when we are typing on a keyboard. Our brain does not function in the same way. When we write something down, the mind begins to interpret it as truth. And this is why I always tell you to write down your gratitude practice. Write down what you're feeling grateful for so that the mind begins to see it as such. And in the same way, I want you to always write down your goals and your affirmations. In this way, there is a sensation created in the body that this has already happened. That it is not just wishful thinking, but it is now reality. Most of the very successful people I know always have a book that they carry along with them. They have a small pocket diary and keep writing in that. I will probably do another podcast on that soon. But for now, I want you to mug up a line and use it every day. The line that I want you to say and understand truly is, if you think it, ink it. If you think it, ink it means that there is a thought that is important, just write it down. Do not use your phone to take notes. Do not use audio notes. Do not use text notes. I want you to use a physical paper and pen. If you think it, ink it. As the ink is on the page and it dries, so does the idea in your mind solidify. So your super simple habit starts by saying the phrase, if you think it, ink it. If you think it, ink it in your mind. And then I want you to start writing down your thoughts. Whatever it is that you're thinking about, let your fingers do the movement. Let your fingers and hand become an extension of your mind. In reality, it is just like that famous quote from the movie 10 Commandments. The Pharaoh stands tall and says, "As it is written, so shall it be done." Usually in a podcast, it's me who speaks to you and you who listens. But I've been seeing your comments and it's time. It's me listening to you. Following the overwhelming success of this podcast, the good folks at IVM Podcast Network have decided to come up with a Kannada adaptation of the show. For those who prefer listening to it in that language, do make sure you let your Kannada speaking friends know about this as well. So start these habits and share with us your progress using the hashtag #TheHabitCoach. If you like this podcast, don't forget to check out other interesting podcasts on the IVM network. You can listen to us on the IVM Podcast app or ivmpodcast.com. You can also follow us on social media. We are at IVM Podcasts on Twitter and Instagram. If you want to reach out to me, I am Ashdin Doc on Twitter and Instagram. You can find lots more information on my website, awesome180.com, or check out different content on my YouTube channel called AWESOME180. That's Awesome180.
Hey everybody, it's been another great week on the IVM Podcast Network. On Cyrus Says, good friend of the show, good friend of Cyrus and myself, Mangalam Mallu is on. He's the assistant editor and anchor at CNBC TV 18, and he and Cyrus discuss how the budget of 2022 affects us all. On This Round is on me. We flipped the script as Gauri is a guest on her own show. Check it out as Kavita Rajwade, my co-founder at IVM Podcast, hosts this very special episode. On Misconduct, Raghavi and Nisha are joined by Priya Mirza. She's the host of the Longest Constitution podcast. They take a close look at the former Prime Minister of India, Indira Gandhi. On Audio Gyan, Kedar talks to Dr. Simin Patel. She's the co-founder of the Bombay Wala Historical Works. She talks about how she picks out the most interesting stories to showcase. And on Tere Mere Raste, Keshav tells us the amazing transformation of the ravaged land of Purnapani. Do follow us on social media. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Also, please do tell a friend. It really does help us when you spread the word about our podcast. And I'd also like to ask you if you could rate or recommend wherever you listen to our podcast. And speaking of where you listen to this show, if you're on an Android phone, do check out our new Android app. We have a brand new app with a brand new listening experience. Definitely check it out. I think you will enjoy it. And finally, we'd like to thank our sponsors this week, Bank of Baroda and CoinSwitch Kuber. Thank you so much for making this possible.
We know you love fast food,
Fast fashion,
faster payment.
lightning fast internet speed.
Then why not fast information?
On Think Fast, where we discuss the latest developments in the world of technology, business, marketing, pop culture.
With a side of sarcasm and my dad jokes, not just mine.
Not mine, Varun. My jokes are funny. So join me, guys, the funnier one, Suchita Salvan, co-founder of LBB.
And me, Varun Dugirala, the co-founder of The Glitch, as we think fast only on the IVM network.
Fresh episodes out every Monday.
On the IVM app, website, or wherever you get your podcast from.